Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the football show. So, we've seen that Chelsea has defeated Manchester City in a thrilling UEFA Champions League final. And to celebrate that success, I have Pradyut Hande with me, a really passionate Chelsea fan who has been supporting Chelsea all the way back from 2013. Hi, Pradyut. Welcome to this episode.
2003.
2003, my bad.
So
Sorry.
that makes me, I don't want to be viewed as a fair weather fan. I've been with the club technically as a supporter since 2003, even before the Russian oil money poured into the club from the days of Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. So, what a magical moment, honestly, because it was unbelievable at so many levels, truly speechless for about a few seconds because we did not expect this outcome, especially given the run of lackluster form that we had in the final, the run up to the final week of the EPL. Also lost to Arsenal, lost the FA Cup to Leicester City. Really fluffed it in the final game against Aston Villa. So momentum was really not on our side, but you've got to say that Chelsea turned up as one single team, and they showed far more passion and hunger than City did on the day. And of course, there were a few questionable strategic and tactical decisions that City sort of messed up. But at the end of the day, one just cannot take anything away from what Chelsea has achieved this season, especially after Thomas Tuchel took over. And magical night. I mean, these are the kind of nights that you live for as a fan.
Definitely. It was just 2 years back that I went through the same emotions when Liverpool won the title. So I can relate to that pretty well. You're seeing it for the second time. So where does this rank when you compare your previous Champions League title and also some of the, so since you've been watching since 2003, you've also seen Jose Mourinho's title wins.
Correct.
So where does this particular win rank for you, Pradyut?
I think I can speak personally for myself as a fan. It ranks right up there, I would say, with some of our biggest nights as a club, especially in Europe. Because while the 2012 Champions League win stamped our authority as a team to reckon with in Europe, something that City is still struggling to do. They just keep falling at the final hurdle, which is why they aren't being able to strike that fear into the hearts of the top teams of Europe, because you know that they are just one mistake or a bad half away from getting out of the tournament. But with Chelsea, they did that into 2012. There have been ups and downs since then. But I would say this win has really been very, very sweet because there's been so much turmoil, especially since I would say Antonio Conte left, and then Mauricio Sarri came and then he left. There's that constant flux of revolving doors and managers moving in and out. The fact that Lampard came in and we had that transfer ban in place, which meant that pretty much the whole of last season he had to do with the resources that he had, really focused on the kids from the academy, gave them that opportunity to break into the first team, the likes of Abraham, Reece James, Mason Mount, of course, what a revelation he's been, Fikayo Tomori briefly. But the point is that he built a core, based on youth. He had the likes of experienced hands like Azpilicueta and Marcos Alonso on the periphery. And when Lampard left, there was a huge sense of despondency because we didn't really know what the future held. Most of us had just heard of Thomas Tuchel managing, Dortmund, and he achieved success there. But his time at PSG was checkered, and you don't really consider a manager of PSG in that league because essentially it's almost like a one-horse race in the the French league. And of course, Lille has proven us all wrong this season.
Pochettino found out that's not the case this season.
Absolutely. And he was bit of an unknown commodity, but the fact that he gave everyone in the squad a clean slate before he identified his system, the players that work best in that system, I think that really stood out. And when they started putting those clean sheets together, and they weren't conceding, they became really miserly and tight as a defense. They weren't scoring as many goals, but that leaky defense really needed to be sorted out, and confidence just sort of multiplied week in, week out. And you knew that Chelsea was just one game away from taking it to the next level. They built on that momentum, they built on that confidence, and when they drew Porto in the quarterfinals, and there was a potential matchup with Real Madrid in the semifinals, or Liverpool, that's when we really started believing that, hey, you know what, we could go all the way this season. And the fact that they've pulled it out is truly incredible. But it's almost like two different Chelseas turn up in different competitions, because in the EPL they've still had a few of their struggles. They botched it up against West Brom at home, lost 5-2. That was a shocking loss, and that really put pressure on them, their eventual finishing in the top four. They've been inconsistent, I would say, to some extent in the EPL, but they've been like just spot on in the Champions League. And of course, to think that 6 months ago we didn't know whether we would finish in the top four. We were ninth when Tuchel took over. Exactly. To reach a cup final. Of course, we lost, but that's okay. That's part of the game. And to become champions of Europe. I mean, what more can you really ask for? He's really set the bar high, actually, for next season.
Exactly. I mean, you were just one game away from winning the cup and the Champions League, and though the form was up and down,
would have been, and technically those would have been as many trophies as City would have won
this season. Exactly. And probably bigger trophies, because FA Cup and Champions League could probably be rated bigger than the league and the League Cup.
Correct. True.
Yeah. So you were saying when Tuchel came over and took over Chelsea, you were in ninth at that point of time. So let's head back to that point of time when you were in ninth, or even maybe back to the start of the season. What were realistic expectations for you, knowing that it was a young squad? There were so many signings, the likes of Havertz, Mount, Ziyech, Mendy as the keeper. So a lot of new signings. It is expected that the chemistry would build very slowly. So did you have trophy as something in your mind as an expectation for the season, or was it just let's build a squad for next season? Because that's what I was telling a few of my friends, that I think you should realistically look to build a squad for next season and mount a good challenge. But a trophy has landed already, and it's the biggest one.
Yeah, so I think I've been a Chelsea supporter long enough to know how realistic your expectations should be. And when the transfer ban lifted, and then the Chelsea splashed the cash and spent over £200 million, bought the likes of Werner, Havertz, Mendy, Hakim Ziyech. So the expectation was it's going to take them a little bit of time to build a squad and a system that is sustainable. So I think, what we were really hoping for was maybe a top four finish and a run to the semifinals or the finals of the FA Cup. They were absolutely, realistically speaking, you would reach the round of 16 in the Champions League, because that's the round that we went out in against Munich last season. So the expectations were really realistic. But obviously with big money signings, there's always pressure to get them to start delivering as soon as possible. That price tag is playing not only on the minds of the owners, but on the players themselves, on the manager, and the other players who are already in the system, because a lot of them are in similar positions. Mason Mount may be a homegrown star from the academy, but his position was put immediately under duress with the likes of Havertz coming in or Ziyech coming in. Pulisic already, competing for the same spot. So it was all about figuring out how to build a core that can really challenge for multiple trophies and titles in the next season. But I would say a lot of what has happened has surpassed expectations immensely.
So how does this happen every time? Because you sack a manager, you sack someone like Villas-Boas in the middle of the season, and you win a title. Di Matteo comes in, wins a title by the end, and that's the Champions League, the first Champions League. Again, Lampard has been sacked, and Tuchel comes in, wins the Champions League. And it's happened time and again. Sarri has won titles. Benitez has won titles. Mourinho, Conte, every manager that turns up at Chelsea wins titles. Whereas you see a team like United, Arsenal really struggling to rebuild. back to the old times. So how does Chelsea keep doing this time and again?
See, I think a lot of that is down to good luck also, because when a new manager comes in, it's not as though he can hit the ground running. He's going to understand the players. He's going to implement his own playing style and his own strategies, all of that. But I think one thing that's held Chelsea in good stead is that the core group of players or the squads that they have always assembled, they have been very quick to adapt to a manager, because it's almost like their survival and success depends upon adapting, because they know that a manager is not going to stay there for more than 3 seasons max, regardless of whether he has won, a trophy a season. Because the expectation and the demands as a manager of a top club like Chelsea are so high. You could take the example of Real Madrid in Spain, a very similar situation where there's a constant churn in terms of the managers. So that has really helped Chelsea not lose sight of the fact that they've still got to keep their eyes on the ball, adapt to what the manager wants to do. And I think they do well when they're pushed against the wall. They do well when they are tagged as underdogs, where expectations are minimal, but they have this silent, confident belief in themselves that, hey, you know what? We've got nothing to lose here. We've got to give it our all. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We saw that in the FA Cup final against Leicester, right? With over 63% possession, better chances, they ended up losing the FA Cup final. I mean, it was disappointing. But even Chelsea knew deep down inside that was a game that they were expected to win. Right. You see this Champions League final, right? With 40% possession, obviously more shots on goal, they managed to do it. So multiple factors, but I think it comes down to the squad's adaptability and also the ability to deliver under pressure when you know that your neck is on the line.
Incredible, really, because this is not a squad that's been around for a long time. It's a team that's come in over the past 2 seasons. So doing this time and again is, I mean, it must be so happy for you as a Chelsea fan, because we as neutrals, or rather non-Chelsea fans, we keep thinking, okay, this is maybe a time when you would go through a span of time where you don't win titles. But every season, or at least every 2 seasons, there is one big trophy that lands. So that's just amazing.
Right.
Whichever manager comes in.
It's so much also down to the faith that Abramovich shows in every incoming manager's, sort of foresight. Every manager comes in with some plan in place, with some strategy in place. The fact that Abramovich is able to, get these folks to come to Chelsea, embrace a certain style of play. If it's working, it's working. If it's not working, he's not afraid to make the hard calls, not just the owner, but the entire, board also. But I can't say the same about, great clubs like Arsenal and United, who in the recent past have exercised patience with their managers. And it's not as though the results have been disastrous, but I would say that the results have not been aligned with the expectations of the fans. Arsene Wenger was given such a long rope that it came to a stage where even the Arsenal players were questioning whether he's the right man for the job anymore, right? So there's a fine line between being patient and, actually chasing aggressive and ambitious goals. And I think Chelsea is a club that manages to do the latter.
Exactly. And I don't think this is a strategy that is replicable by any other team, because only Chelsea does this. Sack managers yet keep winning trophies. I don't think any other team has the ability to keep doing that in such a competitive league like the Premier League, especially. That's just amazing.
Right. Definitely. And go on.
Yeah. And also, now that you have a Champions League trophy this season, you have the Super Cup next season to look forward to, the Club World Cup to look forward to. So that's 2 trophies already that you're fighting for extra next season. And it's a very young squad that is there. So when you compare it with the 2012 squad that had Drogba, Lampard, Terry, Cech as some of the main key stars in the team, Ashley Cole, who are all pretty old, who are in that final phase of the career. But I think as Chelsea fans, I think most of them must be excited that this is a very young squad that would go along for at least 5 to 6 years. So what are your expectations from next season? What are your expectations from next season? seeing such a young squad.
As you rightly pointed out, that is the most exciting part. The fact that we don't have to rely on foreign players who are in their late 20s or early 30s and who are having that much of an influence on the results of the team. I mean, you think of, Chelsea has had one of the strongest grassroots levels football clubs, and they keep winning these under 21, under 23s constantly on a regular basis. But very few players have actually broken into the first team and cemented their place. I think that's something that Frank Lampard deserves so much credit for and will always have our respect, because he's given the likes of Reece James, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori, who is really killing it at AC Milan right now, Callum Hudson-Odoi, all these guys, he has prepped them to take the next step and become world beaters, right? So this core group of players, along with the likes of, again, very young players, Havertz, Ziyech is slightly older than them, but works. Timo Werner is quite young. Billy Gilmore in midfield is, I think, someone again marked for big things in life.
Yeah.
That core group of youngsters is super exciting, and you have the likes of N'Golo Conte, who is playing at another level. I mean, this man he's been bagging man of the match awards after man of the match award in the Champions League. He cannot be replaced. I would say he's a one of a kind professional footballer in our times, and we are truly blessed to see someone like him ply his trade. So, and then you have a solid goalkeeper in Mendy. Your defense looks completely different right now. I mean, the likes of Rudiger Christensen, Silva, Azpilicueta, Reece James, who can step in at right back. So you seem like you've got all bases covered. All they really need for next season to mount a solid challenge for multiple trophies and across multiple competitions is a reliable goal-scoring striker. Someone like a Harry Kane or a Romelu Lukaku who can come into the system and bang in those 45, 50 goals across competitions this season. That is something that is a missing link right now. If we plug that gap, Chelsea really can go all the way across multiple competitions, because it's not a star-studded team like a Real Madrid was back in the days of the Galacticos, or a City is, where they're almost like a heavyweight champion. They've got players in each position. But Chelsea has that amazing mix of youth and experience. And if they get that deadly goal-scoring prowess up front, then it's going to be difficult for a lot of teams, not just in the EPL, but also Europe.
Very true. I mean, I can't imagine if another striker like Harry Kane comes in, because he is available on the market right now. So it's very unlikely that he'll move to another club in London. But someone like him does come in, it's going to be really scary for us, I think, for sure, for all the teams in England.
Fingers crossed. But it's not as though other teams are going to make it any easier on Chelsea, because everyone's sort of like rolling up their sleeves, getting into the transfer market, figuring out what gaps to plug in. So it's going to be a really, really interesting season. I don't think it'll be as close in the EPL as it was this season. I mean, to think of three teams competing for practically two positions on the final day of the EPL, it rarely happens, right? Very rarely happens. So it was so keenly contested. And even the points difference between third and 10th was just about like 8 or 9 points. So I don't think it's going to be this keenly contested, but it's going to be close, because the likes of West Ham, Everton, Aston Villa, Leeds United, these guys have really closed the gap between the top 6 and the rest.
I believe that it will be a tighter race at the top of the table next season. I think Liverpool will be there after the likes of Van Dijk, Gomez come in. Chelsea will strengthen. I think one or two small areas where they'll need to strengthen. I feel centre-back is another area where they can go out and strengthen, because Azpilicueta is not growing any younger. United would have to strengthen. So I think next season's Premier League would definitely be an interesting ride.
100%, 100%. And that's what we want to see as fans, right? We were starved of football for about 3 or 4 months in between during the pandemic in 2020. And when football was back, it just became like our go-to comfort food, especially on the weekends. And obviously, it wasn't the same with the fans not being in the stadiums, but my God, what an atmosphere it was last night. And with
Yesterday,
fans
yes.
coming back gradually, I think that's some form of normalcy that we can keep striving towards.
So I think you must still be happy. You still must be over the moon celebrating yesterday's
Absolutely.
success. I'll let you continue with your celebrations. And thank you once again, Pradyut, for turning up for today's show. It was great getting insights from you on the whole journey, Chelsea's 2-year journey. We should give credit to Lampard for building this side. He doesn't get that credit
100%.
for sure. I'm pretty sure he doesn't get that credit from the neutrals. He should be given that credit. And the job that Tuchel has carried out to take you to the Champions League final. So thanks again, Pradyut, for coming up.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, yeah, Neeraj. Honestly, because, as I said, it was so unexpected. It was, there's a whirlpool of emotions within you in the moment. You keep watching reruns of the celebrations. You're constantly scrolling on Instagram to see who's going live next, what's coming up on the official Chelsea handle. And just so fulfilling. And what a way to bring an end to a fantastic season. Incredible. And really sets the tone for what Chelsea can do, what City can do once they regroup as well. And, pure delight, not just as a Chelsea fan, I would say as a football fan in general. So thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure interacting with you, Neeraj.
Thank you. Thanks, Pradyut. Thanks to all the listeners for tuning up for this show. We will be back once again. Thank you.